want me to go? Why don't he's very muffled to me. What'd you say? Oh, okay. Okay. Let me know. I'm gonna shut this.
Preston, you could see Talent. She's right in your area in California.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where did she say she's from? I don't even.
She told me the town. I forgot, but it's I don't think it's that far from him.
She ready to go?
Yep.
Let me shut this TV off so the light's not on to the side of my thing here. Okay. All right. Now, Preston, you see like that 2-shot? That's the live shot. Can you see that on your computer?
What are you talking about?
You see the 1 shot with John and I in it together with the split screen? Can you see that on your?
I see it.
That's the live shot. So you'll know sometimes if you're speaking, it'll only be you up there. Or you'll see what I mean.
All right.
You ready? All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mr. Pizze.
Mr. Sausage. How are you?
How you doing? It's been a long time since I talked to you, buddy.
It's been like, I don't know, minutes.
Feels like just what's going on? Everything good?
I'm really good. I'm actually been really busy week, traveling around, doing gigs, having a good time, writing jokes, putting out the 1-2 punches, and enjoying life.
Yeah. On your new iPad 10? Is that
on my new iPad 10, writing new jokes on my new iPad 10 on the treadmill. As a matter of fact, if you go to my Facebook page and every time you see a joke on it, that means what? That means that was the day I was exercising. If there's no jokes, that means I'm eating and I'm miserable.
So how do you write on the treadmill? How is that possible?
I just like read the paper, the news, or whatever's going on. I'm thinking about whatever's bothering me, and then I'll just like open up a note.
Do you actually type? You type while you're running, or you?
Yeah, while I'm walking very quickly. I don't run really fast. I walk quickly.
Oh, you walk. You brisk.
I walk a very quick way. Quickly.
You walk quickly.
And then I let the treadmill run. So the people upstairs in my house think I'm running.
What is that voice I heard? Where did that come from?
That's Hicks from Outer Space. Rob Hicks from Outer Space.
Yeah,
people don't know about our producer Rob Hicks, but Rob Hicks, for all you folks that are watching this, if you look in our notes there, Enlightened Video, Rob Hicks is the guy that produces a show, and he's actually able.
Don't hold that against us, please.
That's right. But he's able to produce anyone's show. Matter of fact, he's gotten a couple of new clients, I understand, that are doing
anybody you want, free of charge. That's just come on. We're taking everybody. Give me the middle.
Well, we only get 20% of the gross. Right?
Hey, listen, we'll start.
Hey, by the way, if you guys do like our shows and what we're doing, you always click below and say like, and also give us thumbs up and let us know.
And if you don't like it, go to Enlightened Audio Visual and tell us in the comment section and say Rob Hicks sucks.
How was your week, Sausage? What have you been? You busy?
I've been running around. I've been flying around, ready to go. Baseball playoffs, Yankees. A lot of stuff going on over here. I know you're not a sports guy.
Not at all.
It's a lot of fun. Got the sausage is flowing.
When do I get it? Hey, Hicks, have you ever actually had his sausages before?
Oh. Don't lie, Rob. Don't lie. It's okay.
Not that sausage. I mean, have we ever? I know sausages for years. I'd never actually eaten one of the Mikey Sausages, New York Sausage Company's sausages.
Hey, what can I tell you? What can I tell you?
I don't know. Where do I find this wonderful product?
You've never tasted sausage, so you tasted mine.
It's New York. What's it called? New York Sausage Company, right?
It's all of them. New York Sausage Company, the Sausage King of New York. You know how it goes.
Well, one of these days, I want a couple of links of cheese and parsley, and maybe
I'll cook it, and you can eat it while you're on the treadmill.
Yeah, I know that's the last thing I should eat. Sausage is the last thing I should eat, actually.
All right. Well, I don't know if they have good sausage in California, where our next guest is from.
Well, our next guest, his name is who?
Preston.
What?
Dennett.
That's great. Not Bennett. Was it Dennett with a D, right?
Yeah. What are you trying to test me for?
No, I'm just
Hicks. You see what he was doing, Hicks? I mean, like live recording, and he's trying to catch me. Like I don't know what to guess.
Let me ask you this: How many calories?
Really
how many calories is in a link? All right,
bad. That was bad. I'm very insulted by that. That was like a gotcha.
I'm breaking your sausage.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Calm.
I'm breaking your link. No, I'm just wondering if you knew the Dane was D or B, because it's Ashley Dennett. But
I know what it is.
Can I read off his bio here?
Yeah, I know you don't memorize it, so you might as well read it.
Actually, I have it memorized. I have a photographic memory.
Very professional. Yeah.
But I'm out of film this week, so I have to read it.
Let's go. Read this. Read this. I feel bad for him.
No, actually, I really look forward to speaking to Dennett.
I know you do.
Great. I really do.
President
Dennett began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he discovered that his family and friends and coworkers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. And since then, he's interviewed hundreds of witnesses. And this is the interesting part too. When you investigate these people, most of the people I've been told that if you see UFOs, you've been abducted. If you constantly see them in your life, that means you're probably being abducted and you don't even know it. So the fact that he's done a book on this about people that have been abducted is interesting to me alone, because now you get to see the stories from these people. Anyway, just back to what he's done. He's had more than 20 books. He's written 20 books and more than 100 articles on UFOs and the paranormal. His articles appeared in numerous magazines, including Fate, Atlantis Rising, MUFON UFO Journal News, Paranormal Magazine, UFO Magazine, Mysteries Magazine, Ufologist, and others. His writing has been translated into several different languages, including German, French, Portuguese, Russian, and Icelandic, interestingly enough.
Wow, Icelandic.
He's appeared on numerous radio and television shows, including Midnight in the Desert, with Art Bell, Coast to Coast with George Knapp, Exploring Unexplained Phenomena with Scott Colburn, and many others. And he's appeared on Unsealed Deep Sea, UFOs 1 and 2, UFO Hunters, and more. And I could read more and more about Preston.
Midnight in the Desert. Now I get it all. It's all coming very clear to me now.
I love Midnight in the Desert, and I also love Art Bell.
Let's bring Mr. Preston in.
Preston Dennett. Here he is, Mr. Preston Dennett.
Okay, let's go. Oh, there he goes.
Hey guys, how you doing? Great.
Doing very well, Preston. Very well. So I guess we're going to find out a lot about getting abducted, but you could start, John, because I have a question that's gonna. I need to ask after we get into it a little bit, and then.
Sure. Well, the first thing I like to start off with, first of all, thank you for coming on, Dennett, because I'm a big fan of your work. I've read a couple.
Why'd you call him Dennett? That's not. Why'd you call the
Mr.
guy
Dennett? Mr. Dennett. To you, Mr. Sausage. Actually, you can see, Dennett, that we have a nice flow. We're not. Why do you keep calling him Dennett for?
He's like. No, you know what he just did to you? I'll tell you, Preston, I will tell you what he just did to you. He Brooklynized you. So if you were here with us and you were our friend and you were hanging out, we would call you Dennett.
Probably.
Right? Probably, right? We would call him Preston.
Yeah, we were both born in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, everyone has a name. My friend that used to work out, he had big chest. He was called Joey Pecs. And there was, Vinny Arms.
Because there's a lot of Joeys and Vinnies, so we got to name them different things. So Mikey Sausage, Mikey the Plumber, Mikey the Killer, Mikey Scars. Oh, I can't say that. He would be
Dennett UFO.
No, but he would be maybe Preston UFO. No, but we call
Preston
him Dennett.
UFO. Okay.
No, but Dennett's good because it's 2 syllables.
Dennett.
I would say, Pete, did you see Dennett today?
No, exactly.
It's on before, yeah.
Right? Become part of the club. We haven't even interviewed. He's part of the club.
Now we call him Dennett. So now you're Dennett. You lost it now.
I've been called worse. I'll take it.
Oh, you're married. You're married. All right. So here's the question. Just to get started, I don't know. You started this a long time ago, and back in the mid '80s. So, what was the occurrence or the inception what took place to make you jump into this field? What exactly transpired?
Right. Well, I wasn't looking for it. Kind of dragged into it, kicking and screaming. It's not good news. I heard this report on the evening news about a sighting over Alaska. It was real tongue-in-cheek. They just kind of joked about this pilot who said he saw a UFO following his jet. Turns out it's a real big case in the literature, very well known, very well authenticated. It had radar returns, lots of witnesses, followed the plane for nearly an hour. But yeah, they just kind of joked about it. And I thought to myself, well, this pilot is insane. He's lying. He's on drugs. He's hallucinating. He's misperceiving. I just couldn't believe that aliens were visiting our planet. And, but it interested me. I thought, this pilot is actually putting his reputation on the line. And I started to ask people. I remembered my brother said he saw a UFO. And so I asked him about it. He said, yeah, it was a structured craft. It had lights all over it. he was with his 2 friends. So I called them and asked them about it. And it turned out my sister-in-law, she saw a UFO over Van Nuys Air Force Reserve Base. And she had 2 friends with her too. So I called them up. And it started to sort of snowball from that point. I had a couple of friends who had real close sightings. Brought it up at work. The lady I worked with for years and years was like, yeah, me and my whole family saw a UFO.
Now, did these people live in the same area?
No, they were spread out across Southern California.
But California mostly.
Yeah, I was thinking, okay, must be something with this area, is what I actually thought.
Did you think maybe it was like military testing something, or, I
was hoping, I was keeping my fingers crossed it was something like that, but it didn't sound like it. I remember I was talking to, my coworker, Diane, and Dorothy walks in. She's like, oh, UFOs? One followed us home from the library, and it's really strange. It takes us about 5 minutes to get home from the library. Somehow it took us an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh, gosh. At this point, I was picking up books. I'd learned about missing time. Bud Hopkins' book, Missing Time, had just come out.
It's actually a phenomenon, missing time?
Right. Yeah, when someone can't remember their encounter or have sort of an amnesia with parts of it, that's a strong indication that, something happened that's more than just a sighting.
Wow. And then some people remember, correct?
Some, yep. You get, I would say probably about 10%, not a whole lot.
Now, was that an error on their part? Is that a mistake? Is that not meant to happen? Or do you not know that, or you haven't figured that out? Do they erase your memory? Is that what's maybe it didn't work?
I wouldn't call it a mistake. I would say that they've picked the wrong person because some people are extremely strong-willed and tell them flat out, I'm going to remember this. And some people are able to remember almost fully.
But here's another thing: is the amount of time that people are missing always like the same amount of time, or is it that one person has 45 minutes, another person has 2 hours of missing? Is it always, is there a certain amount of time that's common, or is it all over?
It generally ranges from about 15 to 20 minutes to 2 hours, 3 hours.
So there is. Okay.
But there's some outlying cases. I mean, the Travis Walton case was 5 days. There's a number of cases like that. But most, no, it's about an hour, maybe 2.
Preston, maybe it was Harvey Weinstein.
No, so Preston, when did you really believe? I mean, I'm sure there's people that lie. Do you think you could tell a difference of someone now who's lying about being abducted and someone that is not lying?
Well, I mean, there are good liars out there. Absolutely. Right. But initially I was dealing with my family, friends, and coworkers, people I loved, trusted. Right. Could pretty much tell when they were lying. And honestly, I felt really scandalized. I felt like these guys were keeping secrets from me. And, I was pissed off.
I'm not talking so much about the sightings. I'm talking about the abductions. Is there a similarity to the abductions? Do the same things happen to the people that do remember? Oh, yeah. There's actually, it's really, when I interview someone, I can pretty much tell what they're going to say. I mean, to about 70% maybe. Wow. Each case is unique, but it follows very definite patterns. What's the commonalities between them that you find? Well, most of the people I talk to see some variation of what you would call the grays, which are the short figures that are well described in the media. 4, 5 feet, maybe 3 feet. Large heads. I've heard people say those are like mechanical things. Are those living beings, or are those actually like some sort of like robotic kind of things? There's some evidence that they are maybe biological androids, because people have seen them turned off or stacked up like cordwood. Wow. But no, I think they're biological at least, because you can smell them. I mean, people can smell these guys. And so they have a smell? Yes. It's an organic smell.
They're illegal aliens, Mike.
Yeah, I did a study of UFO odors, and generally speaking, when someone's taken on board, it's not a pleasant smell.
What is that? What is that smell? What do you?
They describe it as being like a locker room or stuffy. Or,
hey, what are you talking about, Donald Trump now?
No, but if you ever look, just think about this though. If you ever been on a ship and you go down into the ship and you lock that metal door and like a submarine kind of thing, or that musty, you're always in water kind of smell.
Where the hell you been hanging out?
In the Navy. No, but I'm just saying.
Mustyship.com.
I mean, well, just think about it. If a ship is traveling, if a ship could actually travel from one universe to another, it's got to be kind of musty on the inside, especially when there's no oxygen in space.
I say that 10 times fast.
Well, that's exactly what I thought. I mean, I think it sort of points towards the possibility, or the probability rather, that these guys are biological beings like us. I mean, people are reporting a cheesy kind of funky smell.
And smelly guys. You know, that's crazy.
But that's the grays.
Are they grays?
Right. And when someone's taken on board, generally speaking, they're just undressed, laid out and examined, and put back. That's the simplest scenario.
No happy
wait. So they're undressed, and then undressed. But are they? Is anything done to them? I mean, basically, why do they keep taking people who are just seeing the same thing? They're bigger or smaller or skinnier or fat, whatever. I mean, it's all the same thing. So why keep abducting if they're not taking anything from it? Have you figured that out?
Well, we're still at the beginning stages, really. I think it's pretty clear they're monitoring certain people throughout their lives, because when someone's taken on board, chances are they've had childhood experiences. That's something I always start to ask them once they've told their initial story. I'm like, okay, tell me about your childhood. Anything unusual? Like, yeah, how did you know? I'm like, well, it's the pattern.
So it's another commonality is childhood experiences.
Right. I think they're tracking families because often it's not just the witness, it's their parents as well, or their grandparents, or perhaps another relative within the family.
See, I hate to say this, Mike, I never told you this, but I had two experiences when I was a kid that I can't explain, that are really bizarre. And I've also, myself and my wife and my daughter have seen UFOs like 3 times, maybe. I saw it once in the 80s where I lived. I saw it here in my backyard when my daughter was like 3 or 4 years old. I've had like 3 or 4 experiences of seeing UFOs, but I've also had experiences as a kid of some kind of weird memories of something that is, I want to bring it up here, but it's really bizarre. And I'm wondering.
Could be LSD.
Yeah. I've never taken any heavy drugs or anything.
I know.
Well, the only thing I've eaten is too many ribs, maybe,
It's kind of what I look for when someone has repeated sightings. And what I would ask is, how close was it? Because
they were far apart.
I mean, how close physically to you?
Oh,
because it's someone
fairly close, I would say. I mean, I pointed it out to my wife and a friend, and we both saw it. And at the time, we didn't have like cell phone cameras the first time, and then the second time, we ran out and grabbed something and tried to tape it. They were close enough to see. I mean, I wouldn't say. Like it's hard to say how many feet. It's hard to say,
right.
But they were clearly evident. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to see a distant light up in the sky, way up there.
No, it was clearly not a plane or something. It was something.
If it's within a few hundred feet, that's when I start to get alarmed, and I'm like, okay, this is a red flag. Because when someone sees a UFO that close, probably more than just a sighting.
I don't know how many feet.
That's another thing I look for. It's
so what he's saying, if you see something like in 200 feet, that means that you were on board, buddy.
No, I don't have any members being on board, but
I'm saying he's saying that if you remember seeing it up close like that, chances are you were abducted.
Oh, I understand. All right, because when I had seen it 2 times, I had seen it with my wife.
Right.
But we both saw it at the same exact time. Once was with my wife and a friend of mine who was a magician. And another time it was in the backyard with my daughter playing in a swing set, and I pointed it out, and my wife ran out.
I wonder if they could abduct me and make me lose weight and give me hair.
Maybe they abducted you, shaved your head, and
hey, but they could have abducted Preston too. See, I got a buddy. Don't mess with the bald guy.
Don't insult the guest.
Not insulting. He's got a good sense of humor.
He does.
If not, he made a very bad decision.
Very funny. So, Preston, that's true. So is it? So you're saying that people that see this more often believe they may be abducted, and then they also have experiences of lost time. I don't remember any lost time. I don't even know if I was abducted. But
you wouldn't necessarily remember having lost time.
How do you find out? Being hypnotized to find out?
Yeah, I do think hypnosis works. I don't generally recommend it unless someone's dead set on it or they have anxieties and they're just going out of their mind, trying to figure out what happened to them. If you have flashbacks and this sort of thing.
I don't even know if it's a good thing to bring this up and admit something like this on the air, but it was to me just the fact that
I never even knew that.
No, I mean, you don't go around telling people I saw this thing. Oh, now I write a UFO joke. They're going to think, oh, this guy's nuts.
See, you're in the no judgment zone. See,
exactly.
It's not that uncommon. A lot more people are being taken on board than I think even the UFO community realizes. It's 1 in 40, 1 in 50 people. A lot.
Really?
So what's the agenda?
There's multiple agendas. They're very interested in us. We know that. I mean,
what do you think they are? These multiple? Please tell us.
I think we got a pretty good handle on it, actually. Very much they're interested in the human body and our genetics and taking our genetic material, which I think speaks towards our relationship with them being much closer than perhaps we realize. We may be related to them in some way.
Clarifying that, though, what do you mean when he's saying that closer?
When he says we may be related to them in some way, he's saying that this world came about in a different way than a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, actually, I think the fact that some of these guys look just like us and so close to humanoid.
But I've also heard that some of them look like 7-foot-tall type praying mantises.
Yeah, upwards of that even. I've got a couple of cases of 15 feet tall. Those are outliers, but one guy's
more like buggish.
Right, but the Greys seem to have some shared genetics with us because they're interbreeding. And I know how that sounds, but we keep running into cases like this where people see what appears to be half alien, half human babies and told it's theirs. And that's one of their major agendas. People have been told flat out, yes, we've taken your eggs or your sperm or what have you. We've created this child because our genetics have become damaged due to cloning or perhaps a war or disaster, and they're trying to replenish their race.
Hey, John, I think I've come to a little conclusion. If it just depends how they're going to take my sperm, and then they can abduct me. Sounds like a fun place to be so far.
No, generally people don't like it. I mean, there are some cases.
I don't know. I don't know how they're getting it, but
Preston, tell him about the anal probing first. Maybe that'll change his mind.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're getting it.
It's very clinical. It's sort of a hospital medical theme.
Wow.
It's pretty strong through this. People describe it as being very much like a hospital.
Now, are there people that have got abducted more than once and remembered it more than once?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of people
really?
Who are, I mean, you would call them, I guess, a conscious abductee because they remember everything. Most people, I'm not sure if it's most, but certainly a lot of people don't remember hardly anything. Maybe they'll remember being sucked up into the craft.
Right.
They'll remember flashes of what the ETs look like and little bits here and there.
So there are people that get abducted more than once. John, I think that we should give them some cologne to bring with them so these guys can smell a little better.
The aliens?
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, that because as you start thinking about this, if it's actually happening, first of all,
it's happening.
It's definitely happening.
Oh, the proof is mountainous. I mean, we have not only eyewitness testimony, multiple backed up by lie detector tests. We have radar returns. We have moving film. We have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 landing trace cases. There's medical evidence over, I think it's 1,000 injury cases, several hundred healing cases. People have been
healing cases sound fascinating too.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
what about healing cases?
So unexplained healing?
Yeah, that was the subject of my first book. I heard about a few famous cases. There was like a police officer in Texas who was struck by a beam of light. He happened to have been bitten by his son's baby pet alligator on his finger and had this wound. And this beam of light strikes him and heals this wound. It's verified by not only him, but his other officer. And they were interviewed by a general from a nearby military base.
Wow.
Very, very well authenticated case.
And the second note, there's another police officer in Texas that lost his penis. immediately that same moment.
No, but you know what I'm thinking about? So now this could be part of their genetic testing, right? How to heal. Maybe they're trying to figure out how could we heal that person, and maybe they did something to somebody else. Now, have people come back with injuries?
Generally, yeah, certainly that's happened. If someone's been taken on board, it's very, very common they come back with scars. So that's pretty much universal. But most of the injuries seem to be accidental. And by that, I mean someone maybe walked up to a landed UFO, it takes off. Next thing they know, they're rushed to the hospital with what appears to be radiation sickness.
Wow.
There was a case like that in Canada. The guy's blood count dropped severely. He lost a bunch of weight.
But now, now you could also say, if you want to be the devil's advocate, if they could heal the guy's finger, why would they leave scars if they worked on you?
Right.
Right. It's hard to make sense of a lot of this. I mean, the fact is there's a couple hundred healing cases, but a lot of people are dying of, cancer. There's 10, 20 cases where people have been healed of cancer, but they're not healing everybody. They're done on a very limited basis.
Wow. I've heard so many stories about all these different things over the years, and I find it all fascinating too. And I'm not, when I joke around with this, I just as a comedian. But honestly, when you think about this, I've heard all these stories, and you wonder. And you're claiming that there's actual proof of this. It's really happening constantly. I wonder: are they malevolent? Are they benevolent? And is the agenda that you're saying about the DNA? Maybe that's not the case. I've heard some other things about them coming down, collecting souls and storing them inside some kind of glass tubes on board. And I'm like, I don't know where that even falls into all of this, but like, in other words, like there's an evil agenda being taken on us that we're not aware of. Are you aware of any of that, or have any information on that from the people you've interviewed?
I don't think the evidence supports that at all.
Mm-hmm.
The cases that I've investigated, I think this is what a lot of the other major researchers have found, is that no, it's not malevolent. There's no evidence of what I would call sadism or Nazi-like torture or anything like that. The worst you get is people are treated like a lab rat with little regard for their feelings, but they're not trying to hurt people. That's not their agenda at all. They're sort of puzzled when people start screaming in pain or fear. They're like, why are you screaming? What's wrong?
So they don't have empathy is what you're saying.
Some definitely do, but it's pretty common that people will be taken on board and they're not treated particularly kindly.
Are they amongst us as people, hybrids? Do you believe they're amongst us, like at the checkout counter at the store or whatever?
I think so. I mean, there was a case up in New York. This was investigated by Hans Holzer involving this, and there's a number of cases like this. This girl was at school and is approached on the playground by this weird-looking guy, dressed weirdly. He had white skin, huge eyes, no hair. He's like, you want to go into my car, my white vehicle over there in the field where there's no roads? She's like, no, you're a creep. Get away from me. And she saw him later in a drugstore, a convenience store, staring at her in this kind of creepy way. And really just this odd-looking guy. And she's abducted later, and lo and behold, there is this same figure on board examining her. So yeah, there's other cases like this. Another case in Wisconsin, where John Hunter Gray is the guy's name. He stops off at a gas station, and there's this creepy little guy, all wrapped up in clothes and sunglasses, a fisherman's cap. Couldn't really see anything except he's staring at him with these kind of beady eyes. Follows him out of the gas station for a long, long time, and wouldn't pass him. They'd slow down, he'd slow down, they'd speed up, he'd speed up. He veers off, and a couple of minutes later, John Hunter Gray and his son are both abducted. It's a typical encounter with Gray-type ETs. And he actually was healed as a result of his encounter, had a number of physiological improvements. So his was a very benevolent encounter. But yeah, what I'm finding, generally speaking, is it's scary, but I don't think their agenda is to, hostily take over our planet, which they could easily do. I mean, they've shut down our missiles. Their vehicles outdistance the best things we've got. Whatever jet, whatever craft we have, they can fly circles around it. They can shut down people, paralyze people. They can basically shut off whole neighborhoods. There are cases like this where a person's abducted, and they'll see everyone around them. All the houses, all the lights are off. People aren't moving, and they're pulled up into the ship. So these guys, their technology, it's crazy. But,
crazy technology, crazy. So all those, so you believe like they could go in and actually freeze a neighborhood while they're doing their dirty work?
Yeah, I mean, they have what looks like time travel abilities. I put 2 cases like this in the book because it keeps coming up. There was one case involving this gentleman, a doctor now, really great witness. He, as a kid, ran outside with his family. They're all watching this UFO. This is up in, St. Louis, Missouri area, outside of there, actually. Typical UFO, metallic, has little lights on it. And he's going to run inside and get his rifle, not to shoot it, but because it has a scope on it. He wants to look at this thing close up. Comes back out with his rifle scope, looks at it and can't find it, pulls the scope down, and the UFO's gone, but his whole family is frozen in place. But not him. He's moving around, panicking because he can't quite figure out what's going on. Turns and sees the UFO has now landed in his front yard, and there's 3 gray type beings walking towards him.
And how big is this vehicle?
It was a little bit smaller than a house. It's pretty large. Maybe 20, 30, 40 feet across at least.
So the technology is so advanced that...
And they came out and took his family?
He doesn't remember exactly what happened at that point. He's definitely the target. He's been having experiences since he was, I think it was like 11 years old when he had his first abduction experience. Really upset his mom because she sent him out to mail a letter at 9 o'clock and he didn't come home till after 10. And he's just a kid, Wow. So, but he recalled it actually spontaneously. He recalled seeing what we call the Nordic type ETs, which are basically human looking. And I mean, they're very much human looking, but maybe described as being very muscular, very genetically perfect, very good looking. And generally they're seen in pairs or triplets, and all virtually identical, like twins, perhaps.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wearing jumpsuits. So yeah, that's why I think they're probably among us. I mean, if they look just like us, some of them, what's to stop them from infiltrating our society?
Maybe
what do you think, Mike? I mean, when you hear this, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. It's me. Like, if I can't touch it, it's very hard for me.
You're one of those.
One guy I interviewed, he's a Navy medic. I mean, this is a good witness. Another guy was a Navy electronics engineer. Another guy's a college professor. And these are good witnesses. They're not lying.
Right. And Preston, what makes you believe then? What gives you the 100% belief, the proof of validity for you? What is it, the validity? Where does it come from for you?
Well, it's sort of a process. First, I do an initial interview and I kind of can see that they're sincere. And when they become very emotional about it, that's definitely an indicator that they're telling the truth. Almost always, they'll start their interview with, "I'm not crazy. I don't do drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm well educated. I don't have any evidence of mental illness in my family." And they go on, trying to validate their story. People have varying amounts of evidence. People have, in some cases have really remarkable evidence, perhaps like a healing. They'll have a before and after x-rays where a cyst has disappeared. Wow. So there's various types of evidence. Other people are rushed to the hospital and the doctor's like, "Well, you have a hole in your ear. Where did that come from?" Or there's a foreign, they get diagnosed with a foreign body, perhaps in their sinus. I've had that a number of times. One case just recently I'm talking to, they sent me a dental x-ray, which shows this really large, round, metallic object underneath the molar of the child. And the dentist was baffled, couldn't believe it, said, "Did you shoot yourself in the face with a BB gun?" And the kid's like, "No." And the mom's like, "No, that never happened. And besides, it's much larger than a BB. There's no entry wound." I've showed this x-ray to a number of different dentists and surgeons and doctors. Every single one diagnosed it as a foreign body, a metallic object. and none.
Did they take it out?
No, they haven't taken it out. It's definitely doable. I mean, it's right under his tooth. It wouldn't be super hard, but the witness doesn't want to do it, and that's pretty much.
I would want to see what's in there.
Right? I would. Yeah, but we have a number of cases, 20, 30 about, where people have had these objects removed and studied, actually. And wow, it's remarkable. It's some of the best.
Yeah, I've also heard, Preston, that a lot of times when they're going in to get it, like the surgeon or whatever will go in to get it, the thing starts moving around and it doesn't allow you to grab it. Like it moves away from being taken out. These little metal objects in the body.
Sounds like my last date.
No, that does happen. It turned up in this case I just mentioned. They took a series of X-rays, which shows this metallic object under the tooth. One of the X-rays, it's not there. They take another one, it's there again.
Wow.
So, very strange. And yeah, there's a number of really weird qualities about these things.
So you think we're being tagged? Like we're being tagged like when we go into the wild and we tag a bear or an animal and then release them and see 3 years later how they're doing, how they're growing, making sure they're healthy, and then releasing them again. We're just keeping track of them for our own good and their own good on some level. Do you think we're being tagged in the same way, or you're saying because of the DNA repair thing that their agenda is self-serving?
I think that, well, I mean, there's about 4 or 5 cases that I know of flat out where people ask, what are these implants for? And the ETs told them. One lady that I talked to, the ETs told her it was to measure the level of pollutants in her body.
Wow.
Another was told it's to boost your immune system. Another was told it's to monitor your health. And so these are the kinds of answers I'm getting. A lot of speculation has been, it's mind control. It's, we're being tagged. This is how they find you, which, is entirely possible. But what people are being told is these are basically to monitor your health.
So do they actually talk to these ETs like in our language, or is it mind talking? Is it verbal talking? Did you ever tell you that?
Almost never is it verbal. It's almost always telepathic.
Wow.
And here's where it's really interesting. If you're French, they'll speak in French. If you're Spanish, they'll speak Spanish.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting, but it's almost always telepathic.
Is that why your books are in 7 different languages?
Yeah, I can say alien abduction in Icelandic. Gestir utan ergeinum.
So is there a lot of people in Iceland that are interested in UFOs?
Oh, yeah. This is very much universal. All over the world, people are very interested in this subject because it's happening in large numbers, I think.
And Mike, he wrote a lot of books. If you look at his list of books,
I was looking at them.
From all different areas.
You know what I was saying? Like if they could heal people, why wouldn't they be more compassionate and try to help the human race? I guess
Well, that's the whole point. They don't sound empathetic from what he's saying. They sound cold and fish-like.
Not all of them.
They smell like fish too.
Well, here's the thing. When someone's taken on board, yes, they're usually examined, and they may ask questions of the ETs, and generally they get no response other than, don't be afraid, we won't hurt you, you're going to be fine. But some people do get messages, maybe 10, 20, 30%, and the messages fall into 3 main categories. And I'm very hopeful about it because the information people are being given is pretty much always the same. The number 1 message is warnings of disaster of some kind.
Right.
Usually it's, warnings about nuclear proliferation, warnings about global warming, warnings about pollution.
You sure it's not Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi giving them messages out?
Yeah, they're not Republicans, apparently, the aliens. Yeah, but I've heard what those messages he's bringing up. I've heard before about the dire messages. But when those messages are given, it also makes the person that's getting them feel like they have to explain the story that's going on with them to the world because of it in this grandiose way. It's almost like maybe they're giving them that message to make them feel valued and important for being abducted.
Yeah, they often say, you are our chosen one.
Right.
and so how many times can each person be the chosen one? And I'm beginning to wonder if some of these messages are about warnings of disaster in particular, are sort of fear tactics, trying to get us to get on the straight and narrow, because obviously we're not. We are polluting our planet.
Well, look at North Korea and all the problems that we're having. But from what you said earlier, they have the power to come in and stop neighborhoods, stop missiles, stop all these different things. So when they're warning us, it's almost redundant in a sense, because they could just snap their fingers and change it to stop it from actually happening. If they just flew in between Donald Trump and Pyongyang
Kim Jong-un.
in North Korea, I mean, if the world would change, if one alien landed here and really let itself be known, the world would change immediately. Things would change rapidly.
Yeah, they have the power to end the cover-up. There is a cover-up, by the way, I think, which is demonstrable.
In the government.
Right. And the ETs...
I'd like you to talk more about that as well.
Yeah, the ETs could end this overnight. I think they're trending towards open official contact. And I say that because of incidents like the Phoenix Lights, or the Hudson Valley wave in upstate New York, or Gulf Breeze, or a huge wave in Topanga Canyon here in California. They're putting on what amounts to a publicity campaign. When someone sees a UFO, it's on purpose. They're showing themselves on purpose to people to sort of like a grassroots campaign saying, we're here, we're not going away.
Right. So they want to debunk everything.
Well,
they want to debunk what the government says that, I mean,
it's just the opposite, isn't it?
No, well, the government says it's covering it up. That's what Preston said, and they're here to say that here we are. They're covering it up. We're here. It's true. I mean,
to some extent, but like I said, they're still evasive. They haven't landed.
It's not full disclosure as of yet.
Well, it would rock the world. It would really rock the world.
I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, it would be almost, and I don't know if it's a bad comparison. It was almost like God coming down and telling you something. You people are killing yourself, or you're going to kill yourself.
Well, it threatens God, people's belief system.
Oh, absolutely. Now, do you get a lot of haters, Preston, in that?
That's interesting too. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely trolled. I've been called some horrible things.
This goes against everything that I was brought up to believe, or most people are brought up to believe in.
We're right at the tipping point now, though. I mean, over 50% of people believe in UFOs, believe our government is covering stuff up.
Yeah, but that's a little bit of I think that's a dichotomy, because 98% or something, or 95% or whatever it is, believe in some sort of God, right? So if 50% believe in UFOs,
but Mike, just because they believe in God doesn't mean that the aliens are not under that same umbrella of their God. They're just another being under the umbrella of their God.
I don't think Preston was saying that, but I mean, Preston's saying we're related in some sort.
Well, that's what he's saying, but I'm saying the people that believe in religion, like in other words, the Catholic Church is explored. They have, I mean, there's an observatory, I understand, in Rome, looking at the skies, and another one somewhere else. So they're exploring the skies, and even the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church came out and said something to the effect that if there's some such thing as aliens, which he believes there are, they should be like Christians, which is almost, it's kind of.
Which is not what we're seeing, though. When some people come away from this experience, ones who are religious often come away with a less interest in organized religion, become more spiritual.
I would figure that.
Which is kind of a pattern I see quite a bit. But the ETs have, there's an incident which supposedly took place, allegedly, at Edwards Air Force Base back in 1952, where President Eisenhower met face-to-face with ETs. And they wanted to disclose. And we wanted technology. They said, no, you have to stop messing around with nuclear weapons. And we said, no, we're not going to do it. And they wanted to come forward and show the world their presence. And we said, no, don't do that. It'll upset religion. It'll upset our economics. It's going to upset a lot of things. So there's some, and I know how that sounds, but there's a lot of evidence that this meeting did actually take place.
And I've also heard that there's a meet that during some of the, I don't know if it's this meeting, but one of these other ones, there was an agreement made between the powers that be and these aliens that they would give them certain technology to let's say America and the world, and in turn we would allow them to abduct so many people per year without we're looking the other way.
Right. I'm not sure if that's true. That came out pretty early on, and
Yeah, but how do you can't stop them. So what kind of deal is that? I mean, they can pretty much do what they want. I mean,
Well,
which they did. Apparently, they're abducting a lot more people than they said they were.
Yeah, probably. But I'm curious to know.
It's like a cop on the take, Mike.
No, but I'm curious to know if that's all true.
So am I.
Would it ruin our economics? Would it send this world into a tailspin, or would it?
I don't think so.
Would it be better? I mean,
I think it would.
But you see now, I can see where Preston's coming from a little bit now. I can see where some people would get really pissed off, like, and I'm not saying it, that Preston has an agenda.
Well,
has anybody accused you of that?
Not a lot.
Okay, no, I'm just because you can see what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't know what your politics are, but if they say if you're more of a liberal person, or they would say, well, Preston's just saying that the message is, oh, you're ruining our planet and don't mess with nuclear weapons, and you're doing this. So that sounds like the agenda of that party. So I was just curious if people would say, oh, he just has an agenda, or these other people have an agenda. I'd be curious to know what their political affiliations are, the people that were abducted that gave these messages of no nuclear weapons, you're ruining our planet. You know what I'm saying, Brad? I'd be very curious of that.
But Mike, it gets deeper.
I'd ask him that.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
But wait 1 second. It gets even deeper, because that's what you're thinking about Preston. Maybe somebody else is thinking Preston's been hired by, let's say, the government of the U.S. to push this agenda through, to show people that there's aliens, so something else they can do nefariously behind the scenes. There could be all kinds of conspiracy.
Yeah, a lot of conspiracy theories.
He's an Illuminati. He's, whatever.
So Preston, do you have when you asked them their political affiliations?
Oh yeah, I ask them everything that they're willing to tell me. Their education level, their race, where they live.
So people that have talked about the messages they sent back, do you find that they are different political affiliations? Are they the same?
Definitely interviewed Trump supporters.
Wow.
And right across the line, people who are very well educated, people highly placed in the military or government, to people who are virtually homeless.
Wow.
I've looked for patterns, and it's evenly divided between men and women. There's no bearing on race, religion, education. The only thing I've really found, and this turns up a lot, it's a loose pattern, not super strong, but it turns up, is that people who are doing what I would call good work for humanity in some way. And by that I mean social workers or environmentalists, doctors, inventors, writers, teachers, entertainers even. This is the sort of people that I find are having contact. But it's a loose pattern, like I said. It's not super strong. Another pattern is this tracking in your family? That turns up a lot. Or do you have a friend who's being abducted? If you know someone within your family, friend, or coworkers, that definitely increases your chance of having this type of experience.
Serious. So there's connections.
Oh yeah, 1/3 of the people I just kind of were out driving at night or happened to be driving with an abductee, had no history of this kind of experience. 1/3 definitely have a strong history of it. It's really hard to say who's being abducted and why, but that's one pattern I did notice.
Wow.
Hey, Preston, the truth of fact.
I'm not hanging out with you, Peasy.
I
don't want to be abducted.
I'm not hanging out with you.
Actually, no, it's not that bad. People are generally returned, no worse for the wear.
Really?
If I'm abducted, I would like to know about it and like to remember it.
Hey, Mike, those beams only pick up so much.
But if I was on there, I'd be asking, hey, can you help me out? Help my brother out.
Imagine those tractor beams that they're like, Scotty, I need more power to pull up sausage to outer space. And imagine me and you together, they'd be like, please. But all right.
Give it all she has, Captain.
This is interesting. Fact or fiction, Preston? Fact or fiction is the Roswell case. Fact or fiction?
Fact, absolutely. There's way too many witnesses.
Okay.
more than 100 witnesses.
Wow.
Right down the line, they've interviewed the people who saw this on radar, saw it coming down and hitting the ground, people who picked up the wreckage, people who guarded the wreckage, people who examined the bodies, people who flew the wreckage from the base. I mean, right down the line, we've tracked this thing.
And the gentleman that got abducted from in the woods, the famous, he's written all the stories down.
Right, Travis Walton.
Travis Walton, yes.
Very hard to debunk that case. I mean, there were 6 guys with him who saw him get struck by this beam of light.
Fact.
They did not see him get pulled on board, but absolutely, they passed lie detector tests. That case has withstood decades of, debunkers trying to knock it down, and they have not been able to do it.
Rendlesham Forest.
Huge case. We're talking 40, 50 witnesses, mostly military guys, all the way up to Colonel Halt, who saw it himself. Really hard to debunk. It was a 3-day-long event. There's no doubt something happened there.
So you believe in all this evidence that's there. What and then you've just written this new book too, this UFO book. What is one of the strongest cases in this book to you? One of the ones that stands out to most to you in this book?
Well, each case I think has varying strengths. One of my favorite cases involves a Navy medic. He doesn't have a whole lot of evidence to support his case, but it's really extraordinary because he was pulled off of his ship, literally, into this UFO, where he saw 15-foot tall praying mantis type ETs.
15, 15?
I tried to talk him down. Yeah, I'm like, no, it's probably 9, 10 feet tall. Because that's what I usually hear. Right. He's a trained observer. He's like, no. These guys stood right next to me. They were more than twice my height. Scared the crap out of him.
15 feet. Wow.
They never hurt him. They just gave him warnings of disaster and this type of thing. But he was not a happy camper. He did not like this experience.
Imagine seeing a 15-foot praying mantis.
That's scary.
And by the way, this brings up another thing that's even interesting. Okay. Another thing, like I was in my backyard the other day and there was a praying mantis next to my pool. And I took a few pictures of him. And I remember as a child, when going to school, they were like, whatever you do not kill a praying mantis. They're a limited species. And if you kill them, you could get a $500 fine. I remember all the kids talking about, you never kill the praying mantis. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if this started because there are actually 15-foot praying mantises in somewhere in this universe, and it's against the law to kill them, not because of us socially here, but because of a bigger power?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by the fact that they even look that way, like an Earth animal. I mean, what's the chances of that? Are they related to praying mantises in any way? It's hard to say.
But I wonder if they're taking our genetic material, why don't they just turn themselves all into human beings and look like us and walk amongst us?
I think some of them are. It's not at all unusual where people see not only grays, but Nordic type and praying mantis all in the same craft.
So they got to be coming from different areas, maybe. Maybe there's different races of extraterrestrials.
A lot of them. There's at least 3 or 4 or 5 main ones. Lots of variations of the gray type. The praying mantis. There's reptilian. I don't get a whole lot of those, but it does turn up. The Nordic is more common, I think, than I'm getting a lot more of those lately.
Wow.
I think it went underground in the 50s when there was the contactee era with Howard Menger and George Adamski and a bunch of these guys claiming friendly contact with human-looking aliens. And then the Greys come along, and the Nordics got pushed aside. But they didn't go away. They've always been there, and it's still going on right now.
Now, Preston, you interview all these people. You think they're aware of you?
The ETs, yeah, I do. And the reason I say that is because I never saw anything growing up, never saw anything my whole life. Now I've had a number of sightings. One time I asked this lady who has had a number of abduction experiences to go on TV. She's like, sure, I'll talk about it, no problem. The day before the interview, she calls me up, really upset. The ETs came and told her, we know you're going on TV and we don't want you to go. And she refused to go on TV.
Wow.
So they're aware of her, so I'm guessing they're aware of me.
But you just said before, speaking of underground, maybe they're not in outer space. Maybe they're in a different dimension. Maybe they are under the oceans. Maybe they're in Alaska. I mean, where do you think they are coming from? Are they really from another planet, or would they be from somewhere here that we don't even know? Or are they hiding out here and we don't know underneath the ground? I mean,
we don't know. There's some talk that Zeta Reticula is one of the origins for the Greys, which came from the Betty and Barney Hill case. And that's been verified in a few other cases, or corroborated rather. But for the most part, we have no idea. I've talked to people about this, and the ETs won't say. They give very coy answers. Like, people will say, "Where are you from?" "Oh, we're from a place you don't know about yet." Or, "It's not important," or "You wouldn't understand," or "We're from beyond the sun," which means nothing.
My first question would be, do you understand in English the word condescending?
Yeah, they're very tight-lipped, generally speaking.
Wow.
So we don't know. I mean, they could be interdimensional. They could be from the future. That seems to turn up in a few cases.
Yeah.
Hey, Preston, would you like to be abducted?
Yeah, I'm ready. If I don't want it to be anally probed, I'll pass that. And I don't particularly like needles. But yeah, I'm ready to go. Absolutely.
You'd like to remember it?
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Sausage?
I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, as long as it's not going to hurt me, I would go. I would go in a minute. And I think Preston would like to go, because that's like another 5 more books.
Right? Yeah.
How about we all went together?
Don't worry, I'm here. Hicks fell asleep. You just can't see me, or you can hear me.
Yeah,
I got abducted.
So far, no one's taken a
I came
picture.
back.
People have their cell phones now. No one's taken a picture on board a UFO. So
That's what you really want to see. I want to see the technology at work, and I want to see what it looks like. And I've also read something where people go on board and it looks like the ship is small, and then once they get in, it's like 10 times the size of what it was from the outside.
Oh, so glad you mentioned that. I did a
doesn't
study
make sense.
on that. Yeah, I studied about that, and the guy I was talking about, the Navy medic, he's pulled on board this ship, and it kept changing sizes. The room kept changing sizes. I was interviewing another guy. He noticed the same thing, and he asks the ETs, because he had gotten over his fears. He was able to converse with these guys pretty regularly each time he was taken on board. And he asked them, "How big is this thing? It looks really big." And they said, "Oh, it's as big as we need it to be." And
So it's expanded. So it's almost like a trailer home.
I wonder if they bend your mind to give you the concept.
I don't think so, because there's
No?
a case from Leonard Stringfield, the crash retrieval guy. He's interviewed hundreds of people who said that we've collected these craft. We have the bodies. He interviewed this one guy from California who was given the task to photograph a UFO. He's like, okay, and he's a photographer, obviously. Photographs the outside of this object, and they said, okay, photograph the inside. This object was about 30 feet across. He goes inside. He said it was so large, you couldn't throw a rock across it. And hit the other side. It's bigger than a gymnasium. It was huge inside.
Wow.
So that just shows how they can, I mean, this is a technology where they can expand space inside, which shows how they can control time to some extent, because space time are related.
Man, screw Weight Watchers. I want these people.
One other thing too that's interesting. I'm it's eluding me his name right now, but do you remember, Mike? We interviewed the gentleman who makes the I guess you want to call them tinfoil hats to prevent aliens from actually.
Mike Mencken.
Mike Mencken. Yes, that's correct. What is your thoughts about?
What do I get for that, Jim?
Survey says ding, 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 ding. We got to wrap this up, but just quickly, what do you think about?
Do you know of Mike Mencken?
Of course.
No, I can't say that I do, actually.
Get out of here.
Mike Mencken?
Yeah, Mencken.
Yeah,
Mike
Mencken.
Mencken. He makes these hats out of some material. And it says when you wear this certain material, what was it? Eurostat?
Something
Velostat?
stat. Yeah.
Velostat? Some kind of material that.
Telestat.
No, Velostat or something like that.
Velostat. That's what it is. Velostat.
You can't get abducted.
Right. It blocks the actual connection from them being able to abduct you. And he sells the hat, and he said he's had tremendous success.
Yeah, we interviewed him. You got to look it up. It's Mike Mencken, M-E-N-K. When we come off, go look him up.
All right.
Yeah, he may be somebody you want to interview.
Ann Druffel did a study on people trying to prevent abductions, and generally speaking, no. It's very difficult to do. No.
If they want you, they got you.
People have been abducted from, I've got a case from the Marriott Hotel in Woodland Hills, from condos.
I would just like to know, I want to know why they select certain people. Is it random?
DNA?
To some extent. I mean, like I said,
blood type? Oh, that's another thing. Blood type. I've heard something about the RH is negative or something.
that does seem to increase your chances, but it's by no means a rule. I mean, there are whole populations that have, no Rh negative blood, and they're still having abductions.
Maybe they can abduct Hicks and make him happier.
Nobody's seeing his picture of him sticking his tongue at you. We have to wrap this thing up because we're like going overtime. And Preston, we love to have you come back on because I think we could literally spend hours.
Yeah, I think we should do a part 2.
Part 3 and 4. I'd like to because he has 20 different books we could talk about. But right now, the new book that you have for 2017 is Inside UFOs, the account of contact with extraterrestrials, right?
Right. Yeah.
And,
all first-hand cases.
All cases of extraterrestrial meetings of people with people.
Right.
They get that on Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
All the usual spots.
Yeah. If you Google my name, it'll take you to my website. You can get it through there.
You Preston Dennett with a D.
With a D. And how many N's are in there? How many T's? How many T's, sausage? Are in there?
2 N's, 2 T's.
You got it. Very good. So, all right, I'll wrap this up. But Preston, thank you so much for coming in here, and we would love to have you.
Oh, they're getting me up.
It's been a pleasure.
Hey, yeah, you got it.
That'd be great if they took me right here and froze time.
That would make our show very popular, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, why don't we should have just gotten somebody with green long fingers pulling you out of your chair.
Don't talk about my ex-girlfriend like that.
Be careful what you ask for. They're listening in.
There you go.
You never had it. They had green long fingers on it.
Thank you so much, Preston. You have a wonderful new week. And
he got a good sense of humor, too. I'm glad that he had a nice sense of humor.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are afraid of us, right? They're afraid, they're comedian and they're going to bother, we're not bad, right? We didn't hurt you, right?
No.
You had a good time?
Yeah, you need a sense of humor to deal with this subject.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Preston. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hope to see you again. Good luck with the new book.
There you go, Peasy. I mean, honestly, I don't know. You bugged me out when you told me that stuff. I didn't know that about you.
Well, now you know something else.
Yeah, but now I'm not going to hang out with you. I always want to go hang out. Maybe I do want to hang out with you. I don't know.
Well, maybe you get to go see the ship with me now. You'll be a little happy.
Yeah, maybe we don't need plastic surgery to go over there.
Maybe that's why I have such a fascination with this stuff.
I don't know. I think Hicks is doing a new dance. He's going like this.
He's going, staying alive.
I'll see you later, PZ.
All right.
He's trying to wrap it up his point.
Hey, you guys like the show? Subscribe, say hello, leave your comments. Let us know what you think. We're interested.
Like us, visit Preston's website if he has one, Facebook.
Preston
like the show, leave comments, please subscribe. And as I say, if you don't like us, go to Enlightened Audio Visual and tell them how much our producer sucks.
Perfect.
Have a good night.